Okay, hello, welcome to Traveler's Void. My name is Suka, that is spelled S-U-K-A for clarification. I am the baby guardian in this podcast. I have been playing Destiny since Season 9, Season of Dawn, and I am the resident strike enthusiast.
That is certainly a way to put it. She's got the nickname among us of the Strike Goblin.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah, yeah. I am Kob, the I guess more specialized PVE player. I've played a lot of Destiny over time, and while if you're familiar with the previous episodes of this, which, sorry, if the you know that I am a PvE specialist, PvE main, but I will play PvP if I feel like it.
Man, this is going to be a hell of an update for me. I'm Liana. I am the local, as my friends refer to it, PvP meta slave. And that comes from my friend who has a higher trials elo than me, so I must be doing something right. I've been playing Destiny since Destiny 1. I have played since the very beginning. I started playing PvP in the midway of Taken King, and have just kept going from there. I've been in tourneys, I've done scrims and things like that. I've been against top Destiny clans. I've been getting back into the grind of the game this recently. I just checked my trials report the other day, and I'm top 2.9. I'm Diamond 2 right now with my elo. So, just been grinding, just been hanging out, and yeah, it's been real fun. The unfun part is now going to be me explaining why we haven't uploaded in 9 months.
Oops.
Oops. Oops, no uploads. So, here's what happened as a baseline update. For those of you that don't know, I used to live in Idaho. It's a shithole. I don't recommend going there. But I used to live in Idaho. And when I did live there, my schedule for recording was incredibly inconsistent. I was working a job to where I could be working a night one night or a morning the next morning. And so it was really hard for Kob and I to actually set up a time for us to record and everything else. And so unfortunately, we both just... I'm not going to say we both. I'm going to take credit for it. I was having too many schedule conflicts, and so we just couldn't pull it off. And so we put Traveler's Void on the back burner until I got to a place to where I was a bit more consistent, and I could go from there. I've since then moved to California. I work a much more consistent job, a much better job. I'm a lot happier with my current line of work. And we've decided to bring it back. We also thought it'd be a good idea to bring some new blood into it, which is why we brought our, little strike goblin. That way we could have some new information. But the podcast is not dead. We just took an extended summer break. But yeah, no, we're going to be hopefully uploading more consistently here. I am super, super excited. I'm going to definitely let my other two co-hosts here talk about it and, talk about what we plan to do. But I'm personally super excited. I've missed this podcast a lot, and I hope that if the people that tune into it and everything else, I hope that you all are going to enjoy the episodes that we pump out.
All right, should we go to our first topic?
Yeah, before we get to that, we are going to continue to maintain the somewhat consistent pattern that we had before, where PvE, PvP, PvE, PvP, and then if we have a topic to cover that is just irrevocably both, something like, we'll touch a little bit on it here now, but the recent, as of recording, announcement of the orb changes and that masterworking whole thing, that would be something that would be, if it were a whole episode by itself, would be a both episode.
Yeah, that would be up there. That would be, or, and it might not be, we could also take an opportunity for that type of episode to be, I have a few new ideas that we could do for that, but we also might not. We are going to address stuff in the game. If we ever get a Gambit update, we'll probably throw one in there, but I'm not looking for... probably not until Feb.
I'm not counting on it.
But, yeah, no, we might talk about some other stuff about what we could put in that slot, too, but that's for the future versions of all of us to worry about. So, I think I'm with Suka on this. I think we should probably just go ahead and lead into our first topic here, which is
Stasis.
stasis.
We, in the interim, actually, I think the last episode that we did record was right as they were about to put these stasis changes out, or right after they did. So our next episode was already going to be, what do we feel like about the stasis?
That's true. Actually, I've went back and I rewatched them, and yeah, that last episode was us talking about how stasis felt better, and we thought it could do some more fine tuning. The episode 2,
Which we didn't got.
yeah, which we then got. Episode 2, where we talked about like exotic catalysts and things like that. Some of our catalysts came to fruition.
Some of our catalysts did happen, and I was like, whoa!
I was like, holy shit. So it's kind of nuts when shit like that happens. But now we can talk about stasis from a 9 months later standpoint, and so I'm kind of in favor of Suka. I'd love to hear what you think about it, especially in lower end content / easier content with playlist strikes and everything. How does stasis feel to you right now?
It feels fine. It's not, of course, I was there when Stasis was released and when it was, I guess, broken. Not so much for PvE, but for PvP, but we're focusing on the PvE right now. Ever since those changes, some things don't feel as fun anymore. Hunter's Stasis doesn't feel, like, especially the super, doesn't feel as fun. The biggest and most fun change that happened was the tornado moving faster when it's like going for enemies, but
Sticking to a boss.
the sticking to the boss thing is okay. I think after the boss dies, it could move again because it's staying in one place, and then like let's say the boss dies and it just keeps going in one spot. It's kind of.
I think that one's a bug, though.
Is it? Because it's been going on for a while.
Well,
I was about to say, you think that means anything? How many times has Telesto unpatched itself?
That's true. I miss the Hunter Super. When you first, the initial cast where you had that freezing dome, they shrunk that really small, and it kind of made me very unhappy because I liked how big it was. Especially, I mean, I guess the balance was like now before. The tornado moved really slow, but you had a bigger freeze, but now you have a smaller freeze, and the tornado moves faster, and it's kind of a give and take. But I think that the big, huge freeze radius was really fun, and losing that, was kind of a sad moment for me.
Yeah.
Warlock Stasis, I think it improved. The losing the super time doesn't affect it that much. The stasis turret, that thing is god tier. Always use that. Never use. I mean, whatever the other aspect is. The ice flare bolts and the stasis turret. I don't use frost pulse anymore ever since the stasis turret came out. I think that it's just so, the utility of it is for people who don't know how it works. It is so underrated because of how much ad control you can get out of it. Because of the way stasis works and the freezing and the slowing, and then ice flare bolts, and then you have like a chain reaction with it that just keeps freezing enemies, and it's just wonderful. And then going into
Warlock, I think, is the number one currently PvE ad clears stasis super. None of the other two really compete. I don't even know where Titan would sit. I'll be honest.
Wait, so can I be filled in on this? Because you got to remember, from my perspective, which is mainly trials and high end comp and shit, I see a fucking stasis turret and I laugh for a couple seconds. So like, is it super solid in PvE content?
In PvE, it is absolutely solid. In GMs, in low end, in high end, and I took it into Master Vogue the other day, and it was just keeping ads at bay, or just keep completely controlling them, or helping to control, and it's just wonderful.
Gotcha, okay. Because, I mean, I've seen some stasis with it, some stasis changes and everything else. I'm starting to just get back into using stasis on my Hunter in PvE because I haven't really been a fan of it, but then Peacebound and IS Luna have headstone, and so I've been using, like, crystal builds with those, and that's been a lot of fun recently, but, like, I just... I just never, I don't know, I don't play enough PvE to see shit like that. I mean, I've been busy eager edge flying, so I probably don't see my blueberry behind me fucking, throwing down the turret, but that's really good to hear, because I always thought that ability was going to underperform when I first saw it. I'm not going to lie.
I had the same feeling when it first came out. I was like, what is this? This is garbage, until I actually started using it. I think the first time I actually used it was I think it was a Fallen Saber GM, because they're like, oh, put the stasis turret on and then just throw it out in this area and it'll help control the ads. And then ever since then, if we don't need a well lock, I'm running stasis lock.
And that's exactly what I saw when I first saw it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I immediately knew exactly what the places this was going to be useful and why it would be useful, and
now
exactly the situations I would want it. And I also haven't taken it off as far as being on stasis since it came out.
Now correct me if I'm wrong, KOB, because I may be, but if I recall, when Nova Warp came out and handheld Supernova got shown off in the trailer, I seem to recall people thinking it was going to be garbage because it was a grenade ability when they thought it was going to be a melee ability, and it turned out to be ridiculous. Kind of the same treatment that this is getting, but did that happen, right? I'm not just imagining things about this game at this point.
No, I don't think Blinkwatcher ever actually got shown off anywhere.
That's true.
But I got the aspect, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do with this. I want to use this as part of ad clear and ad control, because Ice Flare bolts plus this, oh, so many freezes.
So, I mean, I guess we talked about GMs a little bit, so I'm gonna lean to you now, KOB. How is it in GMs? I know Suka said that she used it in Master Vogue, but how does it feel? Can you fill me in, because I'm not really sure how it works, because I don't play any other classes besides Hunter at the moment. So I understand the base premise of it, but I have no idea how it works, how it feels, how effective it is.
Warlock Super for Stasis, and Warlock in general for Stasis, is really solid ad control and ad clear, because you can freeze a whole wave of enemies and then shatter them all and basically kill them all instantly. But then, in the neutral, if you're not using Blinkwatcher, I don't know what you're doing on Stasis. That you couldn't do and do better on Well. For Titans, I said it a minute ago, I don't know what role they fill in the high-end content, in the lower level content, in the content where it doesn't matter how strong you are. I've seen some really fun crystal-based builds where you're just throwing crystals and generating tectonic shards all over the place and getting those and incorporating it with this season's elemental well mods that make those stasis shards count as wells and trigger other effects. And it's a fun build, but I don't see its use in the high end because it requires you to be in the group of ads, be spamming abilities and not shooting necessarily. And I don't think Stasis, as those abilities, has the lethality necessary to even hardly kill red bars in GM or Master Vogue. That said, the defensive capabilities of a crystal-focused build shouldn't be ignored. You can have damage resistance from being around the crystal, and then also have sheltered by the void trigger for protective light, and then you can also be in a well and all kinds of other stuff. The defensive for all three classes is very, very up there.
Gotcha.
And Whisper of Rhyme recently with the elemental shards can generate overshields. You become a very survivable build if you build for crystals.
That's what I was going to ask.
However,
is it powerful and everything else? Because I know it generates a ton of crystals, so I was like, oh well, I could see Rhyme being good, but
however, the hunter in general right now, and speaking as a hunter main, doesn't have a lot of space anywhere on anything. As soon as we lose Focusing Lens, and even we kind of have lost Focusing Lens since the 30th anniversary update, we will see Stasis Hunter completely disappear from the meta. For anything, Stasis Hunter will just not happen if it's for any boss damage or anything. Maybe a little bit ad clear with their knives, maybe a little bit of this or that for Duskfield spam or getting their super out for ad clear. But if it's anything for damage, you're never seeing it in a GM again after after focusing lens disappears.
Fair enough. I mean, I could see that too, because I mean, the light based supers for Hunter, even I would argue an arc staff would have a deflect staff would have better capabilities in a GM than that super.
Honestly, the only Hunter super that I usually see if there's a Hunter is multi-tether because of Omnioculus.
Yeah.
There's just not anywhere for a Hunter to be on those teams, and it's even to the point where people who are trying to farm the Grasp of Avarice dungeon boss will exclusively kick out and not ask for Hunters, because while there is some technicality to this, Tether doesn't stack with particle deconstruction, and we still have particle deconstruction right now. And any class can use a div, so it might as well be a warlock with a well or a titan with a bubble.
Yeah. Yeah, I've dealt with it before because I've LFG'd for Avarice because, you know, I've been trying to farm out 1,000 Yard. And I've been kicked before, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry I play the class I enjoy, but, you know, they just need to, you see, if we had, like, some funny little trick where, like, we could Celestial Nighthawk our matey, and, like, he would just fucking melt immediately, maybe then it wouldn't be too bad.
But Shanks don't have a crit.
Exactly, that's the problem. Honest to God, do you want to know one thing that, in my opinion, that would make it better, but it's not going to happen? If we could go back in time to pre-nerfed Star Eater, we might be able to. Hunters could compete, but that's not going to happen.
Pre-nerf Star Eaters had a bunch of other problems that definitely needed to be nerfed, like it buffing weapon damage with the tether.
I agree. But the actual super increase wasn't the problem. I think we actually, I don't know if we actually talked about this on an episode once. I feel like we did. But, like, the thing is about Star Eaters that I remember is that it was a double dip nerf. They've done this for other things too, but they double dip and they stabbed it in the gut twice. And so I remember, you know, it just that. When was the last time you saw a Star Eater?
A couple of times recently, actually, but I asked them why they're using it, and they couldn't give me an answer.
It's either, one of the most common ones is if they're new, I don't have Celestial Nighthawk, or it's because I like it, lol, I'm not going to take it off.
That's...
fair.
I mean...
Outside of GMs and Master Vogue, when you're 20 under, it doesn't matter.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't it require, like, twice as many orbs as it does now, and it doesn't do anything at this point?
Yeah, it's double the work, and you do get more damage.
Double the work,
but
for
it's not
very slightly increased buff.
Yeah.
Honestly, if we got back, I wouldn't mind the double the work part, but if in going into Witch Queen, they increase the damage of Star Eaters to half of what it was pre-nerf, you know, and I'm not saying the whole weapon damage thing, I understand why that needs to be changed, and I have no argument with that, but if we make it to where super damage, now one thing I would be concerned about, because this has happened in the past, is if they don't code it properly, I could see an instance of Silence and Squall, where Silence gets bonus damage, but Squall doesn't. And that's a problem. Because if I run Star Eater scales, I want the damage over time from Squall to do more damage on top of the impact damage of Silence, not just Silence hits harder. I mean, another thing that I'm holding out for going into Witch Queen is that maybe we're going to get an augment exotic for Stasis, but I'm also kind of afraid of that because I don't know if that's going to happen because of Void 3.0. I'm hoping that we get an augment one for Stasis and that Orpheus rig gets turned into a augment exotic for Void, but...
I mean, it kind of already is.
Well, it is, don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to get tuned a little bit, you know, because of Void, but if we can... that's what I'm hoping for.
I actually don't think Orpheus is going to get changed, because the change for it now is just more energy. The solo tether is going to be it just refunds energy as it already does. What we get with the Mobius quiver, which is probably going to be a fragment or an aspect, is probably not going to change meaningfully. We may get one additional throw of the set of bolts, or we might get longer to throw it, but it's probably not going to change meaningfully.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't expect a huge change if it does. That's just me holding out. But I think that is the one thing that it's missing, because to date, there is no Stasis exotic that actually augments the way the super functions.
Not directly.
Not directly.
Yeah.
Every other subclass on Hunter has that. There's Celestial Nighthawk. We have Orpheus to change how your tethers perform/function. There's both Raiden Flux, and then what's the other one? The Hunter one. Raiju's Harness. Thank you. Those both influence arc and everything else. So if we can get a stasis augment that, like, I don't know, let's say you throw, what if if you throw both at once, or if you turn it into a scythe that does more impact damage or something like that, or something. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try and speculate for everyone.
Turn it into a single throw with with just the effect of the tornado instead of the freeze and the tornado.
Yeah, I mean,
but it doesn't move, so it's good for a stationary target. That kind of.
Yeah, it does more damage. I think honestly, if we can get a stasis augment, we'll be fine. But until then,
the closest we have right now is Mask of Bacchus, but that's
yeah.
technically not specifically for
it increases
It's
super.
in
It's
art.
just stasis at all.
It's a 10% damage increase, which is nowhere near enough to make that super good.
It's 20%.
Okay.
Well, actually,
It's 20% if you're eager edging.
It's 20% if you have an arc weapon and the opponent is affected by stasis of any kind.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that. I don't count that, because that's the same logic as, like, I understand you're joking, but that's like the same logic as saying that like Risk Runner is a good defense tool because it happens to block arc damage. Sure, that's a result of Risk Runner, but that's not the intended use of the perk. It's just a side part of it. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, it is a very good survival tool in the right situation where most of the damage coming in is arc. And boy, has it saved me a couple of times against Armady in Master.
Fucking Armady.
But on that similar, like, side effect technicality note, I did mention a little bit ago that there was a technicality for certain things stacking.
Mm-hmm.
And Tether, everybody just immediately thinks that PD does not stack at all with Tether. And it technically does.
oh, when we were testing
Weirdly.
it.
So, with div, it works exactly as intended. You get the div 30%, and then also more the particle deconstruction bonus on top of that, which is wild because that's not how it worked at the start of the season.
Yeah, it's
of
nuts.
course. And Tether used to work, but it required the application of Tether first or PD first. I don't remember which one it was, but either way, particle deconstruction does technically stack with Tether, but it stacks in the weirdest way you can imagine.
Yeah.
This is news
Tether
to me,
is
so.
your 30% buff, and
Or 30%
PD, right? Is either way, and particle deconstruction. When you hit them with a fusion rifle, linear or otherwise, it'll apply a stack of particle deconstruction to them. But that particle deconstruction application will only make the damage go up by like 1 or 2%, like 1.5%.
Yeah.
Whereas without Tether, it would be 7%. And you can stack that up to 4 times, and that'll end up resulting in a 40% damage bonus for fusion rifles. If you hit all 4 stacks of particle deconstruction on a tethered enemy, you get 40% damage bonus. But it's incrementally smaller. You go up from 30 to 40% over the course of 4 instead of 0 to 40% over the course of 4. Technically it stacks, but only insofar as your first pulse of a Cartesian.
It stacks,
will-
but not to the point. It's just not as severe, so people
People assume it just doesn't,
Yeah.
because the number doesn't go up by a huge
we don't
number
see. I
on
would
the
say we don't
second
see
shot.
big numby, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Big num no good.
big numby.
We like the damage number screen.
Listen, if people
That was my lead into, I guess, our next major topic, if we want to, for Void 3.0, is technicalities on the Void subclasses already.
Oh God.
I will say they better not touch my supercharged grenade. That's all I really want.
They won't. Well, they might.
As far as I'm aware, they haven't said anything beyond that. They for Void 3.0, they want to focus on, much like Stasis has 3 major adjectives of slow, freeze, and shatter.
Mm-hmm.
They want to have Void 3.0 have 3 outgoing adjectives and 3 self-buff adjectives. The outgoings being volatile, suppress, and weaken, I think, and the incomings, your owns, being devour, overshield, and something else.
Misery. No,
Cloak.
that's right, cloak.
Stealth.
Um,
That's as much as they've said, and they've given some idea of some abilities we might see.
honestly, Suka, if I had to guess, it'll be an aspect.
Probably.
It'll probably be an aspect where it's going to do the exact same thing that the hunter aspect does, where your grenades get modified.
Okay.
I'm not saying that with certainty, obviously, but that's my guess.
It'll probably be a fragment under the name Chaos Accelerant, like it already is.
Yeah, or fragment of chaos or some shit, like something along those lines. But
well, I mean, considering we're going to get an aspect that is child of the old god, yeah, you might be.
child of the old one. And you know, I'm kind of curious to see how it turns out and everything else. I think it'll be interesting, to say the least. I do want to backtrack just a little bit before we move on to Void, because there is one thing that I think we need to talk about, and that is the fact that when we started talking about Stasis and everything else all those months ago in Season of the Splicer, we had very, very few Stasis options to us as far as weaponry was concerned. We now have...
I think we were still at the point where we really only had Salvation's.
Yeah, I think Salvation's... And, well, Cryosthesia, too. But that's old Cryosthesia, not the new good one.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I want to talk about it for just a little bit. The builds that are now possible with Stasis, with Stasis weaponry and everything else. Because I'd like to see stuff like that show up for Void as well. You know, because we see, obviously, perks on Stasis weapons like Headstone and things like that. And I'd like to see something like that on Void as well when Void 3.0 drops. But, I mean, I'd like to talk about, just for a couple minutes here, about, you know, some of the more, I would say broken, but some of the more broken builds that we've dealt with / seen as far as Stasis is concerned. So, I know, for me, again, I've just recently been getting into it, but there's a, like a Hunter build where you can make IS Luna with Headstone, like break all your crystals and do a shit ton of damage, and you spawn crystals all over the place, and you have ridiculous ad clear. I don't know how it works on other classes. I could see the Warlock being pretty solid with it, with the whole Stasis turret thing and everything else, but...
There is a build for, if you want to get your grenade back really fast, to have, like, more than one turret out.
That would be interesting, to say the least.
I'm not actually sure if those builds work with the ability cooldown changes, or how strong they are now. Before,
we'll get to that.
Before the ability changes, you could get out, like,
good.
5 or 6 and still, like, just maintain them. But now, I would be surprised if you got out 3 before the first one started to fade.
I tried, with the build that I do with the Stasis turret, when I'm just doing, like, low-end stuff, I use, like, Verity's Brow, Grenade Kickstart, and double bomber on the class item, along with the Stasis aspect or fragment that lets you, like, when you break crystal, your recharge is increased. And I believe, doesn't Verity's Brow Warlock stack with another Verity's Brow Warlock? Right?
I believe it
get
does,
the grenade energy, and it's like synergizing, and it also goes to your fire team members. But with 2, like, I know it works better with more than one Verity's Brow Warlock, but even before and after the cooldown changes, I've been able to maintain at least 2 turrets out at once. And that's in, like, low end, where I can have for sure a Stasis weapon in my primary. Or now you can have one in your heavy with the sword, Zephyr. And
Reeds.
Oh, that's right. Reeds.
We can't forget Reeds.
Of course. I love Lady of Fusions. I don't know how I forgot that.
I need some fill-in on this from the both of you real quick about Reeds. So again, I was told recently by some people that this was a whole different topic, but the discussion of the best PvE weapons, or some of the best, get put into trials, and some of the best PvP weapons get put into GMs. And that's definitely true. Uzume, Palindrome, we see these weapons obviously stuck in GMs, and these are very, very popular PvP weapons. But the two that I heard, one of them I can understand, and that was Shayura's. And I can understand why Shayura's is good. But the role that I have on reads, and the role that I've always used on it, is triple tap firing line, which I understand is, good with either a mag perk or big one spec, whatever the role is. I don't remember. But could either of you see a build with headstone reads or something like that being powerful?
Not reads.
Not on a heavy weapon.
No, because you're never going to trigger it meaningfully without using your heavy as ad clear, in which case you're probably going to want to use a machine gun instead of a linear fusion, because it would just be faster.
Yeah.
But headstone does have an interesting reaction with a very slept on perk in PvE, Unrelenting, because that crystal you can break and get kills with, and those kills will trigger Unrelenting's health restore.
Oh, interesting.
So if you get yourself like a Vulpecula with headstone and Unrelenting, I think that's one of the only ones that can roll that way.
I think
I'm
IS
not
Luna
100%
can as
certain.
well. I think I remember seeing someone freak out about that.
I'm not 100% on that, but at the time that I was made aware of this, it was. It's really survivable because you can use that crystal for defense on Stasis, where you have the Whisper of Chains or whatever, where you get damage resistance by being near a crystal, and then you can, if you get surrounded, you can pop the crystal and heal yourself.
Interesting. So,
or you can have the same aspect on where you just take less damage near one of those when you're near a crystal.
That's true.
Yeah.
What was the other one that I was how's the Scepter?
Even without stasis on, it's amazing. I love it. The getting a freeze off of, like, that AoE freeze off of a kill is excellent for ad clear, and then when you're damaging another frozen target, of course when they're frozen, you're doing a little bit more damage to them with stasis, and the ad clear is just great, and then you get the utility of Will Given Form when you have your full super, and you get more damage, and you actually apply stasis, so you could apply your own focusing lens in theory, if you're not on stasis subclass and you're using focusing lens on like a warlock or a hunter or something, or even a titan, all classes. I think it's very good for solo builds. It just doesn't fit in that well right now because there are no mods for there's no champion mods for trace rifles.
Yeah, we can hold out.
Yeah.
So
I feel like Aegis doesn't have a place in high-end content, unfortunately, because even acting as a the only place I see it being useful with the Will Given Form buff is that you can use it to apply focusing lens if you don't have a stasis hunter.
Yeah.
And that would be it. But you are sacrificing the super of something else to do it. So that means it needs to be someone who already wasn't on a damaging super.
And that's
or
easy in
isn't on a
like
buffing
harder
super.
content. Usually you're gonna have a well lock. Usually.
But you're sacrificing the well to do a debuff
Still
on
have
the
the
boss
rift.
focusing lens. In high-end content, you trust a healing rift?
Yeah,
I barely trust the well.
I mean, I've been fine in GMs with, not even on a warlock, so I think it's fine.
Right, but you're sacrificing, one, you're using your exotic slot for it. Two, as you said, it doesn't have a champion mod, so it really doesn't have a place in Grandmaster. And three, you are sacrificing that super, whether it be a utility super like a bubble, a well, or a tether, or a damage super like anything else.
That's true.
You make that sacrifice for 25% bonus damage for everyone else. for their abilities, because Focusing Lens no longer works with Warlock well unless it's for the Warlock themselves.
Yeah, it's your individual super now, or your individual abilities.
Which is a change we still don't know if it's a bug, and we're so close to the end of the season that we will never find out.
We will never know. Real quick, just for curiosity's sake, after a quick Google search, Ias Luna is the only hand cannon that can do it.
What?
Well, Headstone Unrelenting?
Yes.
I thought Vulpecula could.
Looking at Vulpecula's perks as of right now, and unless we're going to say light.gg is wrong, there's no Unrelenting on the gun.
Oh, okay.
There is on Aegis Luna, which, I mean, is better than Vulpecula anyway for that type of thing. But...
Well, I mean, it's a 180 versus a 140.
Yeah. And it's it's Umbral Engram farming versus farming Grasp of Avarice.
Which, to be fair, is not that bad, but you also have a 1 in 7 on 2 drops to get the gun you want.
Yeah, you gotta. I if it was up to me, I'd farm GOA. But
yeah.
So I don't know. I think that it's interesting to say the least when it comes to stasis builds and everything else, and I do think there is more variety with it. Again, for context to everyone, I have not done a GM or anything like that since season 11 or 12. Because I despise them. I hate artificial difficulty personally. I say that...
The last time they did one was when there was no reason to do
Yeah, I know. It's nuts. I fucking...
Now,
this is coming...
Now me and Kyobi are doing them with barely a little more incentive to do them.
This is coming from the person who's currently streaming a Soul Level 1 run on Dark Souls, and then I go, on Dark Souls Remastered, and I go, I don't like artificial difficulty. Apparently I just don't like it when, someone else is instituting it. Yeah, when I'm instituting it, that's different. But, no, I don't know. It's been interesting.
I half agree with the artificial difficulty thing. I think, of course, the one problem that everyone has is champions. I absolutely hate them in higher end content because they are extremely overtuned. They are bullet sponges and they are time wasters.
But in low end content,
they
don't exist.
They don't exist.
They
in low-end
exist.
content,
They are
or
there.
You just pull out your Galahorn.
I honestly don't even care that much about champions. I don't disagree with what you said. I don't even care that much about champions. I hate match game as a modifier. I think it's the worst modifier in the game.
Arbalest laughs at match game these days.
I know Arbalest has gotten a lot better, especially with Genesis and everything else, don't get me wrong, and with particle deconstruction, I'm sure it's even fucking better, but, that is the only reason why I've not done GM. So who knows, maybe with the Arb Catalyst and everything else, I can do them and not fucking hate them, but
I'll raise you.
Meanwhile, the footage in the background that we might be using
is going to be
now
GM footage from this season. They're gonna drag me into it.
Match game to locked loadout and just severe handicapping of Guardians in higher difficulty content. In Master Vogue, thank God we're not loadout locked like the old Prestige raids, because old Prestige raids, if for people who haven't played them, they were not only loadout locked, it was specific loadout locked. Like, it was like you had to have an auto in your primary, a shotgun in your secondary, and a linear fusion when they were still bad in your heavy. And it would change every week. And was it ever a burn specific?
Yes.
There was a burn, but you're forgetting the most important part, and the most important part was that these prestige loadouts were made in the double primary system.
Meta. Yeah. So there was I think I remember doing a Spire with double auto rifle and a GL or a rocket. This is back when all three of those weapons, well, maybe GLs were still good at that time, but all the rocket and the linear fusion were no good for damage. And so we would wait till the week where the heavy could have been Wardcliff, like rocket, or if it was Eater of Worlds, we would wait for it to be what was it, GL, so you could have Anarchy in your heavy.
For the record, the raids that are being talked about are Eater of Worlds and Spire of Stars. The Prestige normal Leviathan, I don't think had weapon
It didn't have.
restrictions,
I don't
but
think it had lock loadout. Everything was just. Everything
it
just
had
hit harder.
additional other restrictions.
It had like iron modifier and shit like that.
Yeah. And those sorts of... They also came with another modifier, one of which was getting a kill with a weapon gives ammo to the next weapon,
yeah.
so you
Like,
have to constantly cycle.
Triumphant.
Or it was...
what was the melee
Or it was
one?
melee gun, melee gun, melee
Triumphant
gun, melee
rush
gun.
or something like that.
I completely forgot about that modifier where you would sit there and you'd get ready to do DPS to Argos or to fucking Valcour, and you'd have to fucking save 6 goddamn ads so everyone could get a melee off for the gun damage buff.
Or if you were doing Spire, make sure no one at the back of the room hit any of the little pots, because for some reason those counted.
Or the best one ever, when you're sitting there and it's rocket launcher week and that modifier pops up and you're going up and you're using whatever and you have fucking supplicants flying at your face.
Oh my god.
Thank God that got taken out before Gallahorn became a thing, because obviously we would use G-Horn
The
in
whole
there
fire
and be
team
the
would
best
just blow
thing.
each other up.
But you'd be screwed. I mean,
Imagine if Valcour did that, especially with Wardcliff strat. Everyone would just be dead. I mean, people died anyway because people would not stand still.
Because you have a 5-second cooldown right before DP. You have a 5-second timer before DP. Anyway, sorry, we're all Destiny veterans ranting. Back in my day,
I will do you guys one better with the modifiers. Both of those suck. Admittedly, the things you guys put up, they suck. Any modifier that increases knockback damage and area of effect damage.
oh god, like
Okay.
the ones on fucking like the Sadia one where it's arc
Tree
damage
of probabilities, master
and oh god.
mode. That boss that did the lunge on Tree of Probabilities, the big cabal guy.
Oh, I forget his name.
Master Vogue.
Did I say Vogue?
Flying enemies do more damage.
Oh, supplicants.
And there's an area of effect increase.
Supplicants, and then the floating harpies that just laser beam you while you're trying to call out oracles.
Templar beats the fuck out of you on Master.
Oh, because he's floating.
Because he's floating
he's
and he deals
floating.
area of effect damage.
Thank God I've only ever done it once.
The one time I did
Well-
Master Templar was for the challenge, and we did it while the relic could still pick up orbs, and so we did
Let's
that
go.
orb cheese with one warlock and all titans with Crest of Apalupi, and then we
Sounds
changed
about
to
right.
Thunder Crash.
If you're trying to get the Fatebreaker title, this week, the week we were recording this, the week that contains the day of the 19th, this week is your last opportunity to start working on that before the season changes and the power goes up.
No,
That's
it
true.
was last week. Last week
No,
was Confluxes.
you get to confluxes one more time right before Witch.
That's
Oh,
true.
can we? Oh, okay.
That's true.
Then I stand corrected. I thought Confluxes was the kind of like the one that I just did last week. Was the
No,
last
technically when Master Vogue came out, Oracles was the first available challenge.
I see what you're saying now. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I still have to do that this week. I'm kind of.
Anyway,
dreading it.
now that we're all done doing back in my day and in our rocking chairs,
Back in my day.
let's move forward. So we've talked a little bit about Void 3.0, but let's really dive into this topic here. So, if you don't mind, I'll go first because this is,
Unfortunately, everything that we have here is entirely speculative. We have some information, but we haven't gotten
we only
anything
have
new
like
yet.
what
We
the
probably won't
visuals
for
that
a
we
couple
got from
more
the
weeks.
trailers.
Yeah.
No, we have the initial TWAB like 2 months ago that gave us a preview.
That's about it.
That I can find the information on.
Yeah.
So, basically, I mean, I don't have a ton of input for this episode, but I can put some into it, for this part of it at least. So, for Void 3.0, with the changes that are going to be happening, I'm going to speak pretty much exclusively for a hunter right now, and I'll let the other two cover the other two because I play pretty much only a hunter. So, when I heard about the changes for what was going on with the multi-shot tether, I'm super excited for those and to see how they work. I'm honestly at this point kind of just viewing it as super Tikus. That's how I'm kind of looking at it. I know it's not gonna obviously function the same, but I it's whatever. But I'm really, really hoping that the aspect and the fragment system for Void can fix a lot of the things we used to do back. I really miss D1, like the subtree system, because it gave Void a shit ton of options. And so I'm hoping the fragment and aspect system can do that, because it gives you a lot of different ways to play. And so I'm really hoping that, the ability to, let's say, shoot, your 2 sets of 3, and then those, tether all the enemies around and they share damage, but they also explode and there's a little bit of, life steal or something. You know what I mean? Just some random effect like that. I like that variety. And obviously there's going to be a meta of what's great and what's not, but I think having that variety brings a lot into the game as far as build crafting, but also just enjoyment, because you can sit there and have so many different ways to achieve the same thing and, have fun with it.
Yeah. And because of the way just Hunter in general is underperforming in PvE, I really hope that these changes that are coming to Void for the Hunter really kind of gives it a new life in the game and PvE content.
The fact that, and this was an issue before, if I recall, I actually, no, well, not in Destiny 1, but in Destiny 2, this has been an issue where we get to certain points in a season and people are quite literally just excluding hunters from their fire teams.
I think that's a problem of encounter design, because people had no problems with going back to the ye old days. No one had a problem with hunters in Leviathan in against Callus, against Argos, against Galron, against Valkor.
The primary issue with that is that it is perceived that hunters will actively weaken your damage bonus with particle deconstruction.
Yep.
So people will exclude them because focusing lens no longer works, not the way it used to anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's not a whole team-wide buff. It's just the one warlock or your Thundercrash Titan who get the bonus. So they don't really want that. And because Tether is a perceived cancellation of particle deconstruction, they will exclude a hunter purely on that grounds. Because Thundercrash with Curious is better than Celestial Nighthawk, and that is the single highest damaging super that a hunter has, because it's all instant damage and it's like 300,000 free damage. A Titan's Thundercrash with the exotic will do way more damage, so they'd just rather have another Titan in that slot.
Yeah, that's a sad state that we're in. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, we shouldn't be at the point where we can sit here and look at hunters like that and go, this is what's going on, at this point. We shouldn't be sitting here commenting on this and going, oh, this is what's happening, because to be honest with you, quite honestly, it's horseshit. Because I hate the fact that we are at a point where, depending on how shit works out, we as far as season and DPS and things like that we have gotten to that point to where we can go, oh well, we don't want a hunter on our team because it could lower our damage. And I think that is the worst fucking thing ever. We should not be excluding people based off class.
Yeah, people. The exclusion is also a part of efficiency with damage, or just because you're gonna lose some damage. People always want, especially when we would farm GOA or Prophecy Boss, people always want to do what the streamer strats, where they always, it's guaranteed one phase with this and this and this, and if you try to change anything else, you're not going to get the one phase, and it's just not good. Instead of which that's where's the fun in the encounter in that, if you can't have diversity and it's just a one and done kind of thing, which sometimes that's fun. I remember almost one phasing Instruction Prime back in Scourge of the Past, and that was really fucking fun. But at the same time, losing out on that much damage just because of a class and not one phasing is kind of a shit excuse.
The issue is that people get up each other's asses about one phasing because they want to be the most efficient they possibly can, and if you're not one of those guys who's out here farming Atheon and like practicing and learning every little like perfect timing, manipulating the position of the harpies and the supplicants and shit to get everything exactly right for all 6 players, and if you're not leaving one person in the thing at the last oracle rotation to take out all 3 oracles, you are not one phasing in VOG.
Yeah, I've encountered that. I think one of the last VOGs we did together there was it were you there when it was that guy that told us to jump off before the thing started? So I could be the only one, and he did that just because it was a quote unquote faster or better for
optimal.
DPS.
Yeah.
Instead of letting people play the actual mechanics.
If you're with an LFG, you're not one phasing. Accept that fact. You will not one phase. It will not happen. Do not expect it to happen. Do not try and make it to happen.
And the thing is,
you are not one phasing.
Yeah,
this is not new.
Gameplay
this is
not
not new either, because the first instance of you know, especially I think KOB and I telling people to get used to it is fucking season 9. Sanctified Mind and everything else was not easy to do. Sanctified Mind still isn't the easiest to do, and especially, you know, with the changes that have happened and everything else. Obviously, the boss fight encounter has changed a lot. But, like, Sanctified Mind, if you had a group, unless all of you had, you know, perfect supers, perfect weapons, enhanced relay defender, and everything else, you'd go into LFG groups where you have, you know, I think 2 people with enhanced relay, and they want to do, like, 1 tether, and it's like, we can't do 1 tether. We don't have enough damage. And people will sit there and grind it and grind it and grind it for hours. And then the second you finally get them to agree to a 2 tether strategy, that you fucking kill the boss on your first attempt. And it's because people, especially in LFG groups, and I understand it, I'm this way too, are so focused on getting out of the LFG group as fast as possible, but fucking refuse to, you know, adapt or use strategies that are different from what they do in their personal group.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is the big thing, is the personal group. The personal group will be better at all of the things if you play regularly. Like, if we have a team of 6 go in and do a VOG right now, we will probably get close to one phasing on just because we're doing it, not even trying to one phase it. If we actually put in the effort to try and do a one phase, the people we usually play with probably could.
Yeah.
But that's not an LFG group. And if any member of that falls out for an LFG, we're not, like, it's just not going to happen.
It's the same thing, and it's on both sides of the game, too. I mean, even looking over at PvP real quick, you know, if I sit there and I start pulling random people for Trials cards, we might be sitting there grinding for a while to get them their Flawless. I sit there and I play with my group and people that I play with, we're going to try and knock out 3-4 Flawlesses in that one evening. And, you know, that's human nature. That's how that works and everything else. But the fact that the LFG has gotten to the point of, I don't like this term, but the fact that everyone in the LFG is a quote-unquote elitist and thinks that they know the best strategies and it's their way or the highway and everything else.
Absolutely.
And it is fucking atrocious. I used to Sherpa stuff on the LFG all the time, and I haven't done it in seasons because I think it just, especially like the official Discord server, is fucking terrible.
I have the Void 3.0 like information we have up, by the way.
Go ahead and break it down for us, because I don't remember.
Alright, from, let's see, August 26th. So this is when they talked about it. The only time they have really gone into any detail. They want to focus on 3 verbs, similar to Stasis' Slow, Freeze, and Shatter, like we mentioned earlier, and they are Suppress, Weaken, and Volatile. But those are the outgoing effects. Volatile, for people who don't know, is the thing the middle tree Void Titan does to enemies with their punch and their grenade, where they explode an additional time.
I was gonna say
that triggers some other.
I was gonna say that's Void detonators, isn't it?
Yes, but the debuff, if you were hit by
it's volatile. PvP, that's right.
It's called volatile. You'll also have beneficial effects with Overshield's Invisibility and Devour. The Hunter will have a change to their Mobius Quiver, where it will fire 2 volleys of 3 seeking arrows that will otherwise perform as they would normally. So it'll be 6 arrows for 6-shot tether, but it will be done in 2 bursts of 3 that will seek onto targets. And then one aspect they talked about was stylus execution. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile enemy makes you invisible, and your next melee while invisible weakens the target hit.
Is this just
so
for the
it's
hunter,
just
or is
a
it for everyone?
slight. This is just the hunter. This is a slight variation on the flawless execution that we have now for middle tree hunter.
For
you have to be crouching and you get a precision kill.
Yeah. And then while you're under that effect, meleeing doesn't.
It's a lot better than fucking flawless execution.
So, yeah.
Yes, because it's easier to trigger. Titan, an aspect for it. They didn't really go into a whole bunch of other stuff for it. For Titan specifically, they didn't give like a melee ability or any changes. They just gave us one aspect. The aspect they're calling Overwatch at this stage. Cast a void-empowered barricade that generates an overshield for you and allies near it. Slowly regenerates the overshield for allies taking cover behind it. And there's a change to shield toss. Enemies hit by the shield generate partial overshields for the Titan.
That could be incredible for like rally barricade-based strategy and anything. That could be, that could be the thing that pushes people over to use rally barricade in high-end content.
Yep.
At this stage, it doesn't specify whether or not it's towering or otherwise, but
it sounds like rally barricade.
It's a pseudo rift for Titan.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like rally because I don't see. I mean, the only instance I could see in current game, this may change. The only instance I could see in current game where that's going to matter is it when you're cheesing Arm 80 at the beginning of GOA, because that's the only time you have damage coming from both sides typically when you pop a barricade. When you pop a towering barricade, the goal is to have all the damage in front of you so you can heal.
Right. But I could still see the benefit of having, because it's not behind it. You don't have to be specifically one side of it. It's near it.
Oh
shit! So you could use both sides of the barricade to your advantage.
And real quick quick thing about it that I just thought of. You could also use that because this is an aspect. This is subclass based. You could, in theory, use Satans with it and shoot through it with an overshield, and that could affect gameplay both PvE and PvP. But,
It seems like it's a pseudo rift. This was 6 months ago, so
it could change.
It was not like maybe things have changed, or maybe they're tuned back, or maybe we just don't have all the information because we don't. Warlock, they're getting a different projectile melee. Pocket Singularity. Throws a tracking projectile that, when near enemies, explodes, pushes away enemies, and makes them volatile.
So
it's like the Stasis one, but instead of freezing them on an explosion, it pushes them away and then makes them ready to explode on more dudes.
As I say, it's a ghetto Axion dart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a debuff applying Axion
it's
dart.
A discount Axion dart.
Yeah. Aspect. Child of the Old Gods. When casting a... Let's see. What? This is copy-pasted from their thing, and this is what it says. When casting a rite, gain a sentient black hole that will latch onto an enemy and deal damage.
That's the direct quote.
Maybe I had some autocorrect happen when I pasted it in, but yeah, I think that's supposed to be
rift.
When casting a grenade. No, yeah, a rift. Gain a sentient black hole that will latch onto an enemy and deal damage.
So do you
While
lose
dealing
your
damage,
rift?
it refunds grenade and melee energy if you are on a healing rift, and heals you if you are on an empowering
Holy
rift.
shit. Oh my god, okay.
This may or may not have been made with the grenade cooldown stuff that they did recently in mind, which is something with the orb changes that we have to take into account.
Mm-hmm.
They have more information that we don't, and they aren't telling us. Not maybe because they're not allowed to, or because they're choosing to withhold it.
Boots of the
Either way.
Assembler just got a lot more scary. Sorry.
Yes.
That thing is decent in PvP. I don't know if you two know this. It's decent in PvP, actually. There's actually a decent chunk of people in high-end play that have been using it, especially with Well.
That is all of the information, by the way, for Void 3.0.
Gotcha, okay. Damn, the Hunter one sounds pretty solid. That's a much easier way to apply a debuff, so I'm happy with that. The Titan one, I think, is super, super interesting. We talked about that. The Warlock one, I'm kind of curious because whenever Bungie is indescript with heals you, I'm always curious if it's a bump or if it's a regen. Because if it's a bump,
if it's
if
it's Worm God or if it's Healing
Rift.
Rift.
Is it Healing Rift or is it Worm God? Exactly. As far as the grenade and melee recharge, I hope, going off of what you said, I hope that it was made with the grenade with the ability cooldown changes made in mind.
Almost certainly it was. There was no way it wouldn't be. But that is all the information we have. If we get the return of something like a resupply effect for the Titan, that's going to be a near unkillable Titan with enough enemy density.
Yep.
Because they're going to trigger explosions that heal and give them back ability energy. And do that to all the allies nearby. You won't need Devour effects applied if you have one of those Titans rolling.
Damn. Suka, any thoughts?
I mean, I like I said earlier, again with don't touch my supercharged grenade, but I was thinking about like the Warlock melee itself, and how would that affect synergy with the entropic pull or whatever it's got? Would that just be completely negated?
We might just lose that melee.
Yeah.
That melee just might not exist.
Ooh, that's interesting because my Controverse whole build. Yeah,
Well, if you have a Devour effect, which is going to be something that's going to be available to all three
which
classes
I won't
on Void,
use.
you will get ability energy back, assuming the Devour doesn't change.
Yeah.
Because right now you get ability energy back on kill.
But I don't want to consume my grenade. I want to.
We don't know how. We don't have any
grenade.
information on how Devour will be triggered in this instance.
Yeah, so you might Devour in this case is an effect, which means that it might. The thing is that I think we can go off, especially with Stasis. There's no instance in Stasis of you having to consume something like, eat your grenade or eat an ability to gain an effect. So I think going off of that, we can say the same thing here, hopefully, to where they're going to try and make it to where you don't have to just negate using one of your abilities to gain an effect. I think they're going to make it to where it's based off of something actually of, like, grenade kills or, some shit like that. I don't think we're going to have to continue. I think Bungie's trying to get away from doing that with abilities and saving it kind of for exotics. The only one that I can think of...
while Warlock has literally every charge-up grenade thing...
Yeah. And so I think they're going to try and move away from it. The only instance I can think of in the recent future where they've done that is Icefall Mantle, but I don't count that because I consider that an augment. And I think that's where stuff like that should happen, is with augment exotics and things like that, not with, base subclass
So where it
things.
changes the ability to something different.
Yeah,
gives it
where
a different utility.
Exactly. Like, I don't mind it on Icefall Mantles, because sure, you're losing your barricade, but you're gaining an overshield in return, and it's augmenting the ability that you have. It's not like Warlock's Devour, where you consume your grenade to grant the Devour effect, and that's what the whole thing is about, is, you devour your nade, you get Devour, you keep Devour going, and things like that. I think they're trying to...
Your melee kill can also trigger Devour. That's just like its express purpose for that tree, is... get a melee kill, trigger Devour. You also trigger Devour on Supercast.
So I think that their goal is, anyway, is to move away from that type of ability. Like, using that to start the ability is just moving it to something else of, like, getting a kill, getting a melee, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So, real quick before we move on...
There's really not a whole lot of information to talk about Void 3.0.
There's not shit.
That's as far as we've got.
We have the information we have and how Void and the other subclasses feel right now, basically.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask, because, is there anything else anyone really can say about Void 3.0? Because we don't have shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the information. We can say what we would like to see from it, but I think we've kind of already covered all that so far. I think we would like to see the abilities function really.
Yeah, I know.
I think I would like something different for the Titan, because Titan is shield, shield, shield for all three, unless you're casting bubble on top.
I
There's going to probably be 3 or 4 aspects that we end up having, and that was one of the multitude that they'll show us. I hope we have not. I hope it's not an aspect to put down bubble again. I hope that is still
I hope
just
not either.
innate to the super.
Can you, real quick before we move on, can you reread what the change was to disc throw?
Kills will generate overshield.
I thought it was hits.
Is it kills or hits?
Either way.
Okay.
It generates overshield.
Gotcha, okay. So I think that what you're going to see, Suka, as just a guess, you're going to see the bubble. You're going to see some form of build with the actual standing shield, and they're probably going to allow you to build more into your overshield for shit like that. And then I think you're going to see a detonation-based build with aspects or whatever using the disc.
Oh, you know what? I think they are going to make it an aspect for bubble.
What?
Because in their changes to the ability cooldowns and stuff recently, which this happens to be a perfect segue into our next topic, but the bubble is supposed to be a tier 5 super but if it's currently not because it's quote unquote bugged, but I've been thinking how are they going to do that? Because if you just don't choose to cast bubble as bubble, you just cast it as Sentinel Shield.
Oh my god!
You have the fastest roaming super in the game. How are they going to do that? Are they going to make Titan Bubble be the only super that has 2 charge states?
I know.
Or they're just going to get rid of the Sentinel Shield
and
from
Sentinel Shield is ready?
Or just get rid of the Sentinel Shield and
aspect.
just keep it as bubble, kind of like how it was in D1, where you switch to it, but...
I could see an argument for both sides. I hope that Suka's side happens, but I'm more leaning towards KOB's happening.
Because top 3 with bubble, it really doesn't need a shield, because if we're talking how Void for the Titan is currently, bottom tree, Code of the Aggressor is always going to be superior with shield with 2 shield throws.
Not if you have a 3-minute faster super in PvP.
That's true.
Yeah, but...
Let's end it. I think we can all agree to end it on this point. We don't know, and so again, we could theorize as much as we want. I think we all are hoping for what Suka is saying, which is that it's gonna be that we rip away the Sentinel Shield part of it, and it stays as a super. And I think if you ask any Titan player, they're gonna agree with that. What I think, however, it might lean into is bubble being a fragment. At this point, though, I don't think we can argue, because honestly, at this point, I could see it going both ways.
Right. I'm hopeful it's not an aspect, because then you're just going to have a mandatory aspect. That aspect is always going to be
exactly.
On. But what I hope is that if it is something like that, whether it be an aspect or it's locked into that it's not also Sentinel Shield still. That it becomes just that.
Gotcha.
For exactly the reason I mentioned is
gotcha.
In PvP, having Sentinel Shield be up at the tier 5 with Well of Radiance and being able to cast Sentinel Shield, the roaming super that can throw shields across the fucking map,
and bounce 3 times,
at a 5-minute super, when all the other roamers are 7 or 8, that's not okay. No. So I've been wondering, since they said they wanted to change the sandbox for the bubble to be up at tier 5, I've been wondering what they were going to do. Were they going to make you just can't cast Sentinel Shield in PvP if you're on bubble, or are they going to find some way to make it a 2-stage super, the only one in the game where 75% of the super is enough to cast bubble, but 100% needs to be for Sentinel Shield for the roamer, or what they were going to do. But now that I think about it, now that we're talking about it in the context of Void 3.0, it might just be an aspect.
I really don't
or
know.
Become the super outright.
Yeah, I really don't fucking know. That's scary to think about. But yeah, you're right. That is a perfect segue. So let's talk about the current state of the game. So
okay.
I think
I'm very passionate about this topic.
I think we all know where we got to start.
Do we want to start about with the recent news that we also still don't have all the information on, or?
I think we can lean into that after, but I want to talk about just the current sandbox with guns and supers that are, and I guess abilities currently.
Yeah, I think we have to discuss abilities first.
Like I said, I'm very passionate about this topic because of how it's affected gameplay that I enjoy, and it, like saying I had a Controverse Hold build. I am a very, like, when I'm on Void Warlock, which I'm on like 80% of the time, I am wearing Controverse Hold, and using Vortex Grenade, and it just doesn't feel as good as it used to. Ever since the grenade cooldown changes, the super changes I'm kind of fine with. It does. I'm a super holder, which I know is a bad thing. I mostly care about the neutral game, which is the grenade, the melee, and the rift. It's just the grenade changes. It makes Controverse feel. It's currently in the game without Void 3.0, without the changes it's coming to recharge, with volatile or whatever. It doesn't feel as fun. I feel like a lot of the fun has been sucked out of using the abilities and the builds.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see the ability changes. I feel like if you, with the cooldown separations, that's good. I appreciate that those things are separated. And
absolutely.
That's paving the way for PvP and PvE sandbox being separated. The reason Stasis feels so garbage in the PvE sandbox is because it was too good in PvP. And they hadn't yet separated it when they were doing the changes.
The changes, yeah.
Now that they're separating it, they're getting a little bit better, but they're still suffering. Duskfields don't pull anymore at all.
I didn't notice
in
until
PvP
someone
or
pointed
otherwise.
it out. I'm like, no wonder they've been feeling terrible.
And you know what gets me? The enemies that use Stasis use unnerfed Stasis.
Old Stasis. They use old Beyond Light release Stasis.
So your slows reduce your accuracy. They make it so you can't use class abilities. You can't jump. You can barely waddle your way out of the little tiny baby
can't
Stasis.
Aim.
And it pulls you.
Oh yeah.
So if you get more than one enemy who happens to be using Stasis, thankfully there are very few, you can get pulled just back and forth between the two Stasis spots. And it's annoying.
Yes. Especially with especially with the introduction to enemies having Stasis, just cause they do now, without any kind of introduction to like lore-wise or story-wise how these enemies got Stasis, especially the Scorn.
Well, to be fair, the enemies that use it are already heavily influenced by darkness. The Scorn are alive because of darkness, and
but
the Taken are the Taken.
They were around and were created when Stasis technically wasn't a thing.
Yes.
So
yes,
there was no, like, how did the Hive, I mean, I guess that, the Hive are part of the darkness and so are the Scorn, but how did they get Stasis in their arsenal just all of a sudden without, like, it being lore-wise? Same, like, we know why Aramis got it, because it showed her go...
It's a retcon for them,
yeah.
Honestly. It's just, they've always had it. That's
again, with it being old Stasis, it's the overtuned Stasis that the PvE enemies get to have in low and high end content, and it's very annoying in both places.
And it shows how weak our Stasis is in comparison now.
Yeah. Like
the enemies have a gun that does all the things our whole kit used to do. And our whole kit can't even do half of the shit it does to them anymore.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I don't even know what to say, because to be honest with you, I mean, I haven't played a ton of PvE. I don't get to see my abilities used that often, but I honestly think that this is. We'll talk about this, at some point.
There are certain subclasses and shit that don't even feel it. That don't even feel the difference in ability changes. Like a Well-Lock who's focused on getting their Benevolent Dawn up all the time. You don't even notice.
I think the only time I've legitimately, Because the thing is I usually only have been casting one super per strike, which I agree is like, little and small and everything else.
It's extremely unfun.
But I'm also eager edge flying every strike.
You're going straight to the boss room.
Exactly. So when my strike has been cut in half, I kind of only expect one super, so I guess I haven't really noticed it. Like, I think the best skip I found because of that real quick, and I guess we could also talk about eager edge, but the best thing that I've found about that is on Inverted Spire, right after you hit the transit and you go over, there's a ledge on the left side before you hop over to go to the drill. And if you shatter off of that, like shatter eager, you fly right to the entrance to the boss room. You skip the drill.
Yeah.
And so I think that, when I sit there and I'm at the boss in, 5 minutes of the strike existing and I'm just getting my super, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But then, I'm completely forgetting the fact that, that's not necessarily the most accurate picture because, I don't play. But
your average berry blue dot player on the game who's just kind of hanging around.
First name Blue, last name Berry.
The strikes takes them 20 minutes and they get 2 supers out of it because they're not built to intellect very well. Doesn't feel very good.
Oh my god.
It feels like you need to choose your thing and then you end up with Suka situations where you take your super back to orbit with you.
Oh my god, I cannot tell you real quick. I cannot tell you how many blueberries I've had that see me and friends eager edge fly and then pull out a sword. But it's like Eternity's Edge was the funniest one I saw. Pull out an Eternity's Edge and swing it and just fucking plummet into the fucking ground.
I think, like what Kelby said, how slow blueberries are. I have encountered that, of course, because I am the strike enthusiast and I do strikes a lot. I do them every week on all 3 characters. And more so, and more, running into blueberries and how slow they are at the game, like, when I'm in a strike, you have to try and get kills from me. I'm getting those kills, and when I try to give a blueberry some leeway to get some kills, it takes them 5 minutes to kill the one enemy that's in front of them.
And to clarify real quick, just so that way no one sits there and goes, we bully new players. We don't. And we all love blueberries and kindergartens. We love new life coming into the game.
It's just funny to
see.
Else.
But when we're sitting there and we watch, and we all have those moments too. We can't sit. We're not.
I am the most blueberry in this talk right now.
Oh my god! What was the one thing recently that you just absolutely just didn't understand that's how that worked?
I think I forgot. Demolitionist.
Yes, Demolitionist.
I didn't know
that was her
that
biggest
Demolitionist
moment
reloaded your guns.
Are you shitting me?
I thought it just gave you grenade energy. No, I'm not shitting you.
How many? Hang on, real quick, KOB. How many god rolls? Let's see. Involve demo. Let's see here. Hot
salvo just existing.
Salvo. Hothead. Any form of fucking tube-based.
She has
weaponry.
a demo. Fucking explosive light hothead.
That was after I understood. But
oh my god.
There was a point when I was doing this is back when I think it was last season. Arms Dealer was the GM. I knew, but I also forgot that field prep reloads faster when you're crouching. But that was more like me forgetting that it worked that way because I rarely crouch in GMs.
I'm sure you forgot that demo worked that way too.
No, I just didn't know. I thought it just gave you grenade energy.
Freely admit that she just didn't know.
I just didn't know.
Oh my god.
She didn't know. That was her biggest blueberry moment, honestly.
Yeah, just blueberry things and personified in me. And I remember telling KOB and he was like,
different way
huh?
Now.
You have to what?
I'm looking at you in a different way now.
I don't think I know what my biggest blueberry moment is anymore because it would have happened in D1.
Well, you can't.
For the couple of months that I played.
Bag on me that hard because this game does a terrible job at explaining things.
Oh, it does. No, you're
hello, corrupted strike.
Corrupted, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know how much I had to learn from other people I played with, not the game, about how the game worked. Like, I didn't, when I first came to Destiny, I was strictly on a hunter. I didn't really get into playing. I'd created the 2 other characters, Titan and Warlock, after, maybe a season or 2 after, what came after Dawn? Was it Worthy?
Worthy.
Yeah, I really
Most
started
boring season.
playing those characters more. Not in a sense of maining them, or maybe I probably just played the 3 strikes on them and then put them away. On a hunter, I didn't know that bottom tree golden gun was a crit, so I was using Celestial Nighthawk with top tree.
Ooh, I mean, it was a more damaging single shot.
Yeah,
but
I
just didn't
I
crit.
was doing like less damage on less damage on Catalyst than I could have been.
Yeah, by a long
By
shot.
a lot.
I see. We run into a lot more blueberry moments in PvP because there's so many hidden mechanics and things like that. And the other thing is too is it's really hard to break first impressions. So I have talked to a lot of people.
Like bot walking at people.
Yeah. Oh my god. I've met a lot of people recently who still think that Lorenz has wall hacks. Like it lets you see people through walls.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't. But people think it. So, but another one that I don't know if you two know about this gun, like this quirk, but it's super funny. So I remade my hunter recently because I wanted feminine look and feminine pronouns and things like that, right? So I recently remade my hunter, and apparently the game has a in-game memory for if you're remaking a character, and so my character was 1330, right? Mm-hmm. I shit you.
It's based on your gear
in your vault, yeah.
That you put away.
So I shit you not when I say this. I have a 1330 Kvostov.
Let's go.
I have like a 13 something or like a 1250 something Kvostov.
Yeah, so the game looked at the memory and went, oh, well, this is what we're going to reward the weapon. All the other shit I got, all the other greens and whites were like 1270, I think. But my Kvostov, I'm looking at it in dim right now, is 1330. So I can assure you to the viewers that at some point there's going to be some Iron Banner or Trials background footage of me using Kvostov. It's going to happen.
Oh, yes. I will watch that.
Kvostov is a solid ass gun.
It's not terrible. It's not bad. I mean,
What's
it's
the
got...
RPF?
It's a 600, which is the best frame that we got. It has no perks, but the main thing about Kvostov that makes it nice is it's got semi-decent handling. It's got pretty good recoil direction. It's on the higher mid tier of magazines for 600 RPMs. The range is obviously not the best, but I mean, in this current point in the game, you're not using auto rifles at mid ranges, so it actually works out. And so it's so fucking it's nuts to me that it works. But it works. Like it you wouldn't
It has
expect
no
it
reason
to,
but it does.
Exactly.
At least it's not a 450.
Yeah, if it was a 450, that bitch would have been sharded immediately.
Oh, you guys should show
You wouldn't even
hard
get
on
shards.
450.
It would just go away.
I love 450 guns though. I don't think they're, I mean, they're not the best top tier, but when you move away from that
They're
kind of...
the worst in everything you would want to use an auto rifle for.
It's just when you get out of the...
It's not even a joke either. They are objectively the
I know,
worst.
but it's like when you get away from the mentality of use things because you like them and not use things because they're good. I feel like you have a lot more fun that way. Like, which is why I like 450s. I like 180s.
See,
I like 360 autos, and I get shit on by Ellis
I will
all day, every
continue to
day.
shit on you for using 360s.
well, that's because he deserves it. I deal with the same thing, but not with... You can argue your point in a minute, good sir. I deal with the same thing, but not with autos, with pulses, because in PvP, 360 pulses dominate. I mean, 340, excuse me, dominate. Yeah. I mean, with the fact that Messenger Adept can get rapid hit Desperado and stat, it's fucking.
It just becomes disgusting.
I went flawless the other weekend.
It ramps up to like a 600 something.
It's 560 with the damage
How much
of a
does
340.
it up that TTK?
It goes from a...
Doubles it?
Yeah, it doubles
so
it.
Like halves it?
Yeah, halves the time to kill. You have to remember, with Messenger, if you hit perfect headshots, 6 headshots, it's a kill. It's a 2 burst.
Yeah.
So, with Desperado...
Cold Denial can also hit similar numbers.
Yeah, any 340 can do that. The reason why it's significant with Messenger is obviously Desperado. But, because Desperado's off precisions only. But I went flawless the other week with Outbreak.
Oh, yeah.
And
people don't know how to play around anything that swarms like that if they're not
People
armed.
just
Exactly.
get so caught off guard by nanites.
well, it doesn't work against hunters
And
anymore
for a
because,
moment there,
because
even on Hunter, because they took away tracking, dodge doing tracking breaks.
Oh,
hunters
okay.
still
for a
don't
little
know how to
while.
dodge against it. No, it doesn't work anymore. Nanites will still
It
track.
does work. It does work. It's just not as good as it used to be.
And so people, fair enough. So people don't dodge it correctly, and so like, nanites hold out for 4 seconds if they don't latch into a target. If they track to a target, they last. I think it's 2 extra seconds. But anyway, I went flawless with Outbreak, and I was like, I fucking love this gun, but like, you're not gonna see that in the top 10 weapons of Trials report fucking ever. Like,
Yeah.
No.
so I think, you know, there are guns that everybody has. Like, I got super popular and super known for using Devil's Ruin before Devil's Ruin was super popular, and people thought I was fucking insane, and I would just pop off with it. So, you know, everybody's...
Before we had infinite primary.
Before we had infinite primary. There were many a Trials match where I won, but I ran out of primary ammo. No, I think that's part of the game that everyone has. Everyone has those weapons that are not as effective or not as good, but they do well with them and everything else, and people have fun with them.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not nearly as frequent on my end, but it does still happen. So, you know, I think that's a good feeling.
mean,
Yeah.
my personal backup kit for if I need something in the kinetic slot that's not special, that needs to fill a role that isn't a blinding grenade, is a False Promises from Season 11.
Yeah.
It's a 360 auto, but it's just good. Uriel's Gift back in year 1 D2 was like top tier, because high caliber rounds, which it was fixed rolls, so it had, plus the high impact frame meant that you
Staggered
flinched the fuck out of some
every
dudes.
bullet.
What is the Future War Cult one that is currently
The
the
number?
number, right?
Yeah, it's
that-
the number.
That's a 360, right?
That's a
It's a 450.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
450. Oh, damn.
Uriel's was a 450
Sorrow's
as well.
Verse is a 600.
Uriel's was a 450
That's
as
the
well.
one from Crucible, right? That's a Crucible drop.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And then
Sorrow's
Shadow Price is a 450?
600.
Is a 450.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
450.
Shadow,
That's right.
Shadow
I don't-
Price is
it-
a 450.
It's a 450. Shadow Price suffers from being
A
a 450. It's a good gun with good perks, but it just suffers from being a
If
450.
you kicked it up to a
because
600,
Even with
oh
the
my God.
450, the tiny buff that they got, it still wasn't enough to
You-
bring them up to what people, I guess, wanted it to be, or what KOB wants it to be.
You either need to drop it down to 360, or bring it up to 600.
I have one that I might use next season because there's an auto rifle mod. It's anti-barrier auto, isn't it? There's one that I might use because it's 4th times disruption break, and that's it.
I don't think we're getting anti-barrier auto
Nice.
next season. Next
Why,
season is
why is no one
anti-barrier
using
bow and scout.
anti-barrier sweet business? Like, what?
Oh.
Because that gives up your. Like, you could do that. Don't do it in GM.
I'll fucking
If I
do
see
it
you
in
do that
GM.
I
in
will-
GM, we are going back to orbit, and I am telling
No,
you to
we're
change
doing it
that
in the
shit.
GM that we're going to record for this. I'm going to use sweet
Hell
business.
no.
Yes, I
'Cause
can
you
just
sacrifice-
have the redded needle in my heavy slot.
You know what? Fine, I'll do it for I'll do it with Kavastov. You happy?
Let's go.
Oh,
She has
God.
it's 1330. It's gonna do
Um,
damage.
I'm not concerned about it doing damage. It's just like, oh, good God.
It's overload.
We're gonna do the
auto-rifle,
most
by
cursed
the way.
GM.
And somehow succeed because it's Lake of Shadows, and Lake of Shadows eat.
It's
Unstoppable
overload
sidearm
auto,
Rat King.
by the way.
You can't do Rat King and speak business, though.
Yeah, we can.
Also-
we do
Not
love
with that kind of
bitch.
attitude.
No, the auto rifle hierarchy is weird.
Yeah, it's 600 or
It's 600s, 720s, 360s, and then you take a big leap down to 450s.
All I can imagine.
No, I'm serious.
Unfortunately,
the TTB, time to break a barrier champion shield, between 720s and 360s is like a half a second. But then, and with 600s being somewhere in the middle there, 450s are another whole second below
Holy
the
shit.
360s.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing because all I'm imagining now is just a fucking foregrip on Sweet Business, and it's actually the Rat King, so it's the Rat King barrels in the middle of the spinning ones, and you're just
Rat business.
Yeah, Rat Business or fucking Sweet King or some shit. I don't know, but you're sitting there and you're holding both triggers, and the Rat King's just full autoing in the middle, and the fucking Sweet Business is just spinning around it.
No, it's gonna be like Halo
Cerberus
Dual
plus
Wield.
1, more like Cerberus plus 9.
God, it's gonna be like Halo Dual Wield, where you have Rat King in one hand and
Yeah.
Sweet Business in the other.
Oh
and
my
you can
god.
Just shit on those. Shit on
You
those.
have
GM
absolutely
ads.
no recoil control.
No, it's either
You have
in
to
your
tap fire.
hands. It's either in your hands or it's in your jaw. No in between.
I think we should probably touch on the big thing, the thing that we have limited information on, the thing that we... Oh god, please no.
Oh,
Help.
No. Okay. Liana,
the
I can't remember
orbs
if you were there. Were you
changes.
there last night? I don't think you were. Ellis was there and KOB was there. I was in a mood last night about the changes to orbs. I was getting real mad for, just looking at what the information we have now with how we think the changes are going to go. It just doesn't sound like... It sounds so unfair and so
Sounds like
unneeded.
shit.
Yeah, giving up orbs.
Be
so
clear before we get too deep into it, and to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about that's listening, we're talking about the recently discussed and announced removal of orbs of power being generated on masterwork weapon kills, and instead being introduced as a suite of mods that everyone will have access to for free with no effort for the helmet slot to generate, as they said, orbs of power on damage type multi-kills. Which means a bunch of things, depending on how you look at it.
how is
We're not sure at this stage if they mean damage type as in kinetic energy heavy, or if they mean stasis kinetic void solar arc.
I really hope it's the if we are getting the change. Of course, I mean we're gonna get it. I really hope it's the first way.
Same.
With kinetic, cause I gotta have with match game that's gonna not go away because Bungie. How is that gonna you're gonna have to spec it to 2 things only for damage type?
And then you're sacrificing any ammo finder or any targeting if
Any-
you want to use those orbs.
You can live without targeting and you can live without ammo finders. But it just that
You feel gross.
you feel you feel
Yeah.
gross, and it doesn't feel like a fair enough trade.
Now, keep in mind that we don't know if it is per element. We don't know if that means it's going to be, if each mod is going to be elementless, or if it's going to require an elemental affinity on the helmet.
I sure hope not.
So we have the one that we hope for, which if we would hope it just doesn't happen, but it's going to. The one we hope for is that it's kinetic energy heavy slot based, and that they're not element required, so you can run 2 of the 3 if you really wanted to. What probably is going to happen is that it's element based, and then of that element based, we have 2 roads it could go, where the element based aren't related to an armor affinity, or they are. And even with the reduction in cost of a fully masterworked piece of armor from being ascendant shards and enhancement prisms and enhancement cores and an upgrade module to just being 10,000 glimmer and an upgrade module, only after it's reached rank 10, otherwise you still have the cost as normal. At that rate, you still have to spend 10,000 glimmer and an upgrade module to change to use a different set of weapons to be able to generate
It's
orbs.
that, or you're gonna have to
of
bloat your
this
armor inventory
have 4 helmets.
with 4 helmets, and I really hope we don't have to do that because that sounds so backwards to what they changed with mods when they made
Where
that
they want
mod
you to have
change.
one set of armor.
When they want you to have one set of armor.
All of this, or they want you to build craft
Because
a lot.
remember when
All of
Sniper
this
Rifle Reloader
to make
was
Terra
on
generate
void,
orbs.
was on void arms? Now you can just put any kind of reloader on arms. Remember that?
Yes.
Or arc
Yeah.
was you had auto rifle loader on arc, or hand cannon loader on solar. I
You had
don't,
a
I don't know if that's
you had
correct, but
PvP
do you remember when it
people-
was that way?
Yeah, you had PvP
then
people
they
fucking
simplified
sitting
it.
there and freaking out because sniper decks and sniper loader were void,
We're
and
void,
shotgun was arc, and so you had to have 2 different armor sets just to dedicate to whether you wanted to rush
and then
that
they
game
simplified
or...
it, and then it feels with the information we are giving now, or we are given now, it sounds like they are taking that step backwards.
And so,
And
just to clarify,
keep in mind that this is a change designed for allowing the exotics that don't have a catalyst to generate orbs.
Which is like
Anarchy,
a very few of them.
Teraba, La Monarch.
Jotun.
There's like 10 guns to generate
There's
orbs.
a super easy fix to that, by the way. Make catalysts.
Either make catalysts or make it just
Well-
intrinsic for exotic weapons.
Yeah,
I could see that too.
That would be the ultimate change.
Real quick, I just want to clarify. It says the specific wording is it's gonna be based off of damage type.
Let me go grab my summary from a few days ago. Let's see. Masterworking weapons will no longer be what creates orbs. Instead, a set of mods that slot into the helmet will apply to orb generating effects to, quote, all weapons you have equipped of a particular damage type. End quote.
So there's a third option there. What's to prevent them from splitting the mods up like they do right now and making it auto rifle orb generator, pulse rifle orb? Because in theory, that is a type
Would
of
they
weapon.
call those damage types, though?
I mean, they could. I want to think about the current mod system. That would be a huge mod breaker right now because it doesn't say specifically it's going into the final slot where we have like powerful friends and everything else. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's not a combat style.
Yeah, it's not a combat mod. So if it's not a combat mod, this would be the first ever mod we have in the combat that's non-combat that is stylized like that. So there is also a universe where we have auto rifle orb generator, sniper rifle orb generator, and everything else. That is an option.
I don't think they're going to go that granular. Not when they say particular damage type, because I wouldn't say that sniper damage is a damage type. I would say that you're using a sniper rifle of the kinetic damage type, or in the kinetic slot.
I'm not saying.
And considering they're planning on changing the name of the kinetic slot in light of the fact that Stasis, clearly an energy weapon, is belonging in that slot, they want to change that in the future. I see the possibility being much stronger of it being one of the 3 slots, or the elements kinetic, stasis, and then the 3 lights.
I agree with you. No, I'm not saying I don't. I agree with you. I'm just saying this is also technically a possibility, and so
I don't think so. I don't think it even is a possibility. I don't mean to say no, you're wrong.
Just
absolutely.
shut me down.
I don't think they've ever described a weapon type as a damage type.
I don't know. I'm just saying there is a chance. Yeah. It is minuscule, and I agree with you.
With as little information as we have, anything is possible.
It is minuscule, but the thing about that is either way we're having a rule breaker, because under the 2 possibilities we've outlined before, where it's either damage type or anything else, this is the first non-combat mod that is not weapon type specific. So either way, it's going to break that rule and be a non-combat mod that is not specific to the weapon type, or it's going to be specific to the weapon type and break this.
We also don't know what slot it's going to go in.
Exactly.
It could go where the stat mod goes.
I hope not.
Ooh.
It better not.
Well, I hope not. That ruins your build. That ruins your entire thing.
Why would they limit your build crafting even more?
This mod coming in ruins your build crafting either way.
That's true.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
If it costs anything more than 0, you already limit your stuff a lot.
I don't. The philosophy of the way mods, and they say that they want us to build to our heart's content.
To build craft a lot, yes.
And it feels like we're being bottlenecked into this.
Yeah, that's been the problem with the newer mod system since its inception.
Yeah.
It started with certain armor pieces were way too cluttered. There was too much choice, and it didn't feel like you were just changing your mods all the time. And then the new problem came in with arms. Just the arms always have the champion mods, so they never get to do anything other than champion mods.
That's true.
But if it costs anything less than if it costs anything more than 0, and you run a 4 stat, a 4 cost stat modifier, recovery, I think discipline is a 4, and
recovery is a 4,
strength
discipline is a 4,
I
intellect
think
is a
strength is a 3.
intellect is a 5,
Intellect
and
is a
everything else
5.
is a 3.
Yeah. So if you're running a recovery stat mod, which is a highly ran one, it's one of the more important ones to try and run if you're trying to build certain things. You're using 5 points on
Mandatory.
10 recovery and 1 element of orb generation on 2 slots.
Yeah.
Now you have up to another 3 that you can fill. If you have Artifice, you can get an Artifact mod in there additionally to the Combat Style mod. But if you don't have an Artifice mod, you have 2 slots, and one of those is a Combat Style, where most things worth running aren't cheaper than 4.
Isn't this
Yeah.
also... Doesn't this also, if I recall back... Has this been a feature since D2 released? The whole orb generation?
On Masterwork weapons?
No.
Yeah, no. It used to be that Masterworking
They-
just gave you the stat, and
There wasn't even a Masterwork to start with D2 launch.
yeah. That's you're right. And then so Masterworking became a thing, and it allowed for ranging and everything else.
Once they introduced the ability to Masterwork armor and weapons, that's when they introduced orbs on multi-kills to those.
Exactly. So doesn't this just bring us back to the problem we had near the beginning of the game, where you had, remember, Crucible Crucible Masterwork or Vanguard Masterwork, and it was your stat and a kill tracker, and that was it?
It's still that way with new Masterwork, but
Well, no, I understand
we
that,
don't have
but
the information. We don't have the information, but they're supposedly going to take that orb generation hidden, it's actually a perk but not shown to us thing, kind of like the recoil direction of a weapon. They're going to take that and turn it into something worthwhile, something worth masterworking your weapon for. And if that's the case, it better not be completely busted on an adept weapon, because the adept weapons get 10 to their focus stat and 3 to everything else, in addition to the adept mod slot.
I can see a
So
huge mistake
what are they
with
going to
this.
do? Huh?
I could see a huge issue with this. Mind you, I do not think this better not happen. What if Bungie allows you to level up one of the 4 secondary stats by +10?
Oh.
For those of you that are unaware,
Only on an adept weapon?
I don't even know. Only sure. Let's
Yeah, exactly.
So
We just don't have
So
information.
let's say for this little thought experiment, sure. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the 4 hidden stats, I guess I should say 3, but there's 4 stats that are considered secondary stats by Bungie standards. It is your aim assistance, your zoom magnification, your recoil direction, and your magazine. If Bungie's going to turn the Masterwork slot into a boost to any of these, it can create a huge problem. First of all, let's start with this. That jumps every hand cannon into the 95% or higher aim assist category that is used in PvP, and that immediately brings back the spare rations problem on a much larger scale. With zoom, that's completely useless. If they get a zoom Masterwork, they're going to trash it immediately. With recoil direction, we have one ballistic in the game that affects it by a huge margin. The rest of them don't really affect it that much. So that could be a decently balanced one. Magazine.
Well, we have Arrowhead Break and we have like Chambered Compensator or something.
Arrowhead Break is the only one that actually does anything, in my opinion. Chambered Compensator, I believe, is a +5 to it. Arrowhead Break is a +30. So
Yeah. +5 is enough to take one that leans right and center it.
Yeah.
Or leans left and center it.
Arrowhead Break is to kick it up to 100. That's what you use it for, is to kick it to 100. And then Magazine, which could make certain things really broken, because let's say I get a Magazine Masterwork on my Reed's Regret Adept with Adept Magazine, or Adept Big Ones with triple tap firing line or something like that. How many rounds am I going to get out of that fucking gun?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
if it even works right, because things like Overflow and other mag extender perks don't trigger with certain other perks like high impact reserves and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't synergize well.
so
They don't synergize at all. You
Yep.
have to get back down to half the normal
Yeah.
effect
Oh.
for your thing. So instead of for Reconstruction or for Overflow, if your mag is doubled, you have to get through 3/4 of your mag before high impact reserves and the like starts to trigger.
So I don't see it personally. I hope it's not the secondary stats. So if it's not the secondary stats,
We don't know what it is.
Some people speculate that we're getting a third perk on weapons. That's what I've been hearing.
and putting it in the masterwork slot.
No, just since they're taking away orbs, since someone was saying, I don't remember where I saw this, someone was saying that the reason they're taking away the orbs off of guns and moving it to helmets is to free up memory on like the gun, and some people speculate that it's going to give us a third perk slot.
That
The orb generation effect of the masterwork thing
is a perk.
in the code is effectively just another perk, which is always that.
There's a problem with that. We don't have enough perks.
Yeah.
We-
They might add into the UI, since it is an expansion. They could change the UI. They might add into the UI.
not even
and add a new type of perk to that.
Not
column
even that.
Every gun gets the same 3.
Yeah, like we just don't have enough fucking perks. And I honestly, I'm sorry, I have no faith in Bungie that they're going to add enough to constitute a third perk slot. And if they are, half of them are going to be shit. So now, hang on. There's one instance where that could change. If the third perk slot is going to function like the middle perk slot set that we used to have in D1, then I could see it. Where you can get shit like Refined Barrel and you increase range, decrease the trade-off perks. That I could see. But I almost swear to God I can remember Bungie saying they were moving away from that system because the trade-off system made some guns ridiculously broken. And that still would be the case. If I can get a hand cannon, if I can get, let's use palindrome because that's a big one for PvP people, and that's the one I'm going to use because that's familiar. If I can get a palindrome with fluted barrel, ricochet rounds, rangefinder, high impact reserves, and rifled barrel, that's a 110 range hand cannon while ADS. That is a huge. That breaks so many things. The dire promise that we have right now that already can map people, we're talking competing fusion rifle range at that point of 30-meter kill ranges. So that's the only instance I could see, and I can already tell you that's a shit instance.
Yeah, all things said, no matter what we come up with, whatever we think may or may not happen, there's not enough information to make any educated guess.
Exactly.
We just know that the orbs is happening, and that it's happening into the mods, and then we don't know what they're doing with it. Maybe tomorrow, when the new TWAB comes out, they'll address it, or they won't, as they might.
As they do.
Which they have in the past.
As they do, they just sit there and leave us waiting.
Which...
We won't necessarily know anything for certain until the expansion comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
And...
Go ahead, Suka, sorry.
My last thing is, with the information that we were given with the orb thing, the way, I guess maybe the way they delivered it, because they're giving us less information and it's not fully realized, but with the information that we were given, it's made me a little less excited for Witch Queen.
Oh god.
Like how playstyle is going to go. I hope it's worth it.
I'm just concerned that I'm going to completely ignore mods after that, because Elemental Wells don't really cut it. Charged with Light is good, but it's there. And Warmind Cells, I forgot existed until we started talking about the mods again.
So let me bring one thing up that I did see recently. I do not watch a lot of Destiny content creators. I have watched one. I do watch one on occasion. And so Sweatsickle is who I'm talking about. He's been trying to find a build where you can maintain Charged with Light as much as you can now with Orbs of Light and things like that. And so the Elemental Well mods are incredibly busted. Like, busted isn't they're not working. So, let me give you an example. Supreme Wellmaker, I believe, is the one that gives you a wells off a finisher, right? Mm-hmm. If your finisher is too fast, the wells spawn on top of you and don't count. You'll pick up 2 wells, you will not get any Charge with Light because of that mod. You get nothing.
Wow.
So, Sweatsickle did an experiment with this where he used what is widely considered the fastest finisher, which is Gladiator Blade Rush, compared to a slower finisher like the Ace of Spades one where you shoot your enemy in the face. The Ace of Spades one worked almost almost all the time. Gladiator Blade Rush had like a 50-50 shot. And Sweatsickle, I think, I'll quote him, said it best. If I have to go into high-end content and things like that, and the mods that are on my armor are not working 100% of the time, it's unfair to the player.
Oh, absolutely. Same thing, going back to, staying on the topic of elemental well mods, I don't use them because of how limiting they are to the guns you use and the subclasses you use. Like, there are some, like, if you have to be on a void subclass, or you have to get the same kills with the same subclass type you're using to be able to have a chance to spawn an elemental well, which is...
Or you have to be using a particular subset of weapons or a particular subset of abilities, like the ones that were introduced with Splicer for explosives and melees and grenades.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there are people out there that say, proccing these things shouldn't be so brain dead easy, but why can't it be? Why can't it?
Well,
I feel like there's some middle ground between orbs of power and elemental wells where you have to think about getting it, but you don't have to, like, alright, before I even go in, I need my helmet to have this mod, my arms to have this mod, my chest to have this mod, and then on my legs, I have the option of whatever I want to use. And then my class item is taken up by the 7-cost mod of the season.
Mind you, with elemental wells and how they're working right now, let's say you're building into it, there's a chance it might not even work as it's supposed to. Which, in a Grandmaster, imagine if Protective Light only worked 50% of the time.
Oh, good God.
Imagine if High Impact Reserves only procced 50% of the time. Imagine if Radiant Light didn't give you Charge with Light when your friends casted Super. Imagine if Powerful Friends didn't charge you properly and it was a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, that's a lot of my problems with the Elemental Well mods, is it's always a chance to spawn Elemental Wells. And there's rarely ever... There's some that... Aren't there some that guarantee it, but a lot of them are... there's a chance to spawn an Elemental Well, and I don't like that.
Well, the ones that are guaranteeing them, like we just talked about, like Supreme Wellmaker, if you pick up the fucking wells too fast, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I think what's probably going to happen for me is, come Witch Queen, I'm probably going to take off all my combat style mods.
Probably.
And I'm probably going to treat it like I did back in Dawn when they were first introduced. I was like, why would I use this? What is this? What are these mods?
I feel like, I am just...
Or I'm not going to change anything.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make it work.
Either, like, that's how my kind of feeling is, and that I was thinking about it last night. Like, this is going to happen no matter what, and the way it is, if it's bad, or if it's not the way that I like with my playstyle, I am just going to have to forego without, weapons making orbs, and maybe even the mods that make them, and just run like shield break charge constantly, and that's going to be
a lot of people have been talking about the unfair advantage going into Witch Queen for those that have Charge Harvester.
Yeah.
Charge Harvester, for those of you that don't know,
an escalating chance per kill to get
Charge with Light, exactly, and you have stacks on stacks and things like that, and so it's, I don't know.
Also, one mod that needs to be changed is the finisher Charge with Light, losing your super energy.
Empowering finish. It takes like 10% of your super too, which is it sucks.
It's not especially with the changes to orbs and super regen.
How much is it actually? Hold on.
What?
It might be more than I think it is. I need to go look at that.
I think it is.
Just with the changes to how super energy and super regen, it's just not the good. I don't use 10%. I don't use it because supers are more important now than they've ever been because of the recharge time.
The only instance you're going to see of people using things to drain their super is the Scepter and Finny, and Special Finny. That's it.
Yeah.
And if Heavy Finny comes back, which I have a sneaking suspicion it never will, but if Heavy Finny comes back, you might see it, but that is it.
But yes, Empowered Finish is 10% of your super. 10% of your super to gain Charge with
Make
Light.
it fucking like 5 at the most.
Make it not cost your super.
It shouldn't.
Because you're already putting yourself into a finisher, which is, you're locked in position, you are exposed. And, I mean, if it's the last enemy of a fight, you're going to get your super back before the next fight anyway.
Exactly. So, I think we could talk about this...
Make it a reward for the risk of a finisher.
Exactly. I think we could talk about this forever, but...
We are getting a little long, but we did talk about all of our
yeah, we talked about quite a bit. I think this is good. So, next episode, we're gonna be having this discussion again, but we're gonna talk about the PvP side of it. And I'll say this now: it's gonna be a decent episode because I have talked to both sides of the argument, which is the PvP right now is shit. And PvP right now is the best it's ever been. And I lean more towards the latter, not the former. So we'll talk about that then. Is there anything else the two of you need to add or anything like that real quick?
No, I think we'll probably just go over some of the same stuff in this episode as from the PvP perspective. Things like the stasis changes and what we think the sandbox is for PvP right now. Which kind of is what you said.
Exactly. And that'll also give us a chance to see the TWAB that we're waiting on.
Yes.
And so we'll talk about it then.
Yeah, if I just keep talking about the orb changes, I'm just going to make myself mad again like I was last night.
she was kind of steaming.
I was fuming over it because... I don't want to keep going. I'm going to say something mean.
Oh, God. That'll be a fun episode.
Saying the mean thing 2 hours into a video.
Yeah, the thing that's gonna make people laugh at the very fucking end.
Title. That's the clickbait title where it's like,
I lose my mind talking about Destiny.
Yeah. I finally speak my mind, and it's like all the way at the end of the video for like 2
exactly.
seconds.
It's just like at the very last couple seconds, just this is bad by the way, bye, and then just cuts off.
Yeah, hard cut.
But yeah. So we'll talk about that, and we will see you next time.
Yep. See y'all next time.
See you next time.
Nobody that's currently watching.